Your vacation retreat is ideal for our family gathering. We'll be there next month, Dad declared. My $680,000 lakefront property, bought with my own money. Mom further stated, and your sister's children are staying all summer. You don't utilize it anyway. I responded certainly. Then I changed all locks, security protocols, and entry gate access. When they arrived with a moving truck full of belongings, can you imagine pouring your life savings into your dream home, a place of peace you've earned, only for your own family to announce they're moving in with a U-Haul, like they own the deed? Because that's exactly what happened to me. And when they finally showed up at my doorstep, expecting to walk right in, what they didn't know was that I'd changed every single lock. It was a Saturday afternoon at my lake house, early spring. The air smelled of wet pine and diesel. The water was cold and gray, but the sun was out. I'd invited my parents up for one night, still clinging to the hope of being that son who keeps family close, you know? My dad, he leaned on the railing of my brand new deck, already acting like he owned the place. He announced, loud and proud, like he was doing me a favor, "Your vacation home is perfect for our family reunion. We're coming next month." I blinked. I actually looked behind him, half expecting to see someone else standing there, someone he was actually talking to. Then my mom, sitting in one of the brand new Adirondack chairs I paid for, smiled. Oh, that smile. It was the smile of someone who'd already planned the seating chart. "And your sister's kids are staying all summer," she added, her voice dripping with casual entitlement. "You don't use it anyway." My throat tightened. Across the deck, my niece was smearing barbecue sauce all over the outdoor cushion. My nephew had his dirty shoes on the coffee table. My mom? She didn't correct them. Never did, not when it was my sister's kids. Only when it was me. I heard the soft click of the sliding door behind me, closing. That sound, it made everything feel even more real, like I was being locked out of my own life while standing right in the middle of it. I didn't explode. I didn't raise my voice. I just swallowed hard and said the first thing my parents had always trained me to say, "Sure." My dad clapped his hands once, satisfied. "Good," he said. "I'll tell everyone to start planning." Everyone, like my house was a community center. I stared out at the lake, trying to keep my face neutral. My hands were cold, despite the sun. What I wanted to scream was, "I bought this place with my money. My name is on the deed. You didn't find it for the family. You didn't help me buy it. You didn't even ask if I wanted a reunion here." But I didn't. Not yet. My name is Simon. I was 38 then, living 2 hours away in the city, working as a broker. I did well. Well enough that people just assumed I had endless money and endless patience. I wasn't married, no kids. And that part mattered. Oh, it really mattered in my family. It meant I was always the extra adult, the flexible one, the one who could be used as the solution to everyone else's problems. My sister, Dana, she had 3 kids and a husband who bounced between jobs like it was a hobby. She also had my parents' full attention, full sympathy, and, apparently, full access to anything I owned. For years, I had been the quiet wallet. It started small, a temporary car payment when Dana's SUV was about to get repossessed, a short-term loan when my parents' furnace died, a just this once deposit for a family trip because everyone was so stressed. I didn't just hand them cash, no. I paid directly, utilities, insurance, repairs. I was the guy who said, "Just send me the bill." At first, I told myself it was normal. Families help. People hit rough spots. But the rough spot never ended. And the gratitude? It never showed up. Instead, it became an expectation. They didn't ask anymore, they informed. They didn't say thank you, they said, "Well, you're the only one who can." Every time I tried to put some space between myself and their needs, something would happen. Some little punishment. A family dinner I wasn't told about. A group photo where I was accidentally left out. A birthday party at my parents' house where my name was missing from the cake, but my check still covered the catering. I learned to swallow it, to smile, to keep the peace. Because the truth was simple and honestly, a little embarrassing. I wanted them to choose me for reasons that had nothing to do with my bank balance. So when I bought the lake house, A $680,000 place I'd saved for, negotiated hard for. I didn't even tell them at first. I wanted something that was mine. Something quiet, something clean. It was my reward for years of playing responsible. I pictured calm weekends, coffee on the deck, maybe a friend or two, maybe someday someone I loved. I pictured peace. I forgot my family doesn't allow me to have things that are just mine. The first sign came before my parents ever stepped inside. 2 weeks after I closed on the place, my mom called me during work hours. "Sweetheart," she cooed, like she was about to share a tender memory. "What's the gate code?" I paused, my hand hovering over my keyboard. "What gate code?" I asked, genuinely confused. "The gate," she repeated, irritated now, like I was playing dumb. "The community gate. Dana wants to bring the kids up there to see it. They're excited." I hadn't given Dana the address. I hadn't given anyone the address. "How does Dana even know about it?" I asked. Silence. Then my mom did what she always did. She turned it into me being difficult. "Why are you being secretive?" she demanded. "We're your family." I didn't answer the real question because I already knew the answer. They found out because they monitored my life the way people monitor a resource. They watched for upgrades. They listened for new assets. They waited for something they could claim. I gave my mom a fake code. 1 number off. I told myself it was a harmless test. If they tried it without permission, I'd know. The next day, my neighbor at the lake texted me a photo from his porch. It was Dana's minivan, parked crooked in my driveway. My sister's kids were running across my yard like it was a playground. Dana was holding a margarita cup she definitely hadn't brought from home. My neighbor's message was simple. "Did you know you have company?" My stomach dropped so hard I felt it in my chest. I called Dana immediately. She answered like she was doing me a favor. "Oh, hi," she drawled. "We're just checking it out. The kids love it." "You're at my house," I said, trying to keep my voice even. She laughed. "You weren't using it." I gripped my phone so tight my fingers went numb. "How did you get in?" I demanded. Dana paused for a second, like she was thinking which lie would be easiest. "Mom told me the code," she said. My face went hot. "That was not permission," I said, my voice low and tight. "You can't just show up." Dana's tone sharpened. "Relax," she snapped. "It's not like we're hurting anything." In the background, I heard a crashing sound and one of her kids yell, "I found a room with bunk beds." "That wasn't a bunk bedroom," I said, my jaw clenching. "That was my office." "Dana, leave now." She exhaled like I was exhausting her.
"Fine," she said.
"God, you don't have to be weird about it." Then she added, like a final punch, "Dad said we're going to use it for the reunion anyway." That was the first time I realized this wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a plan. So, when my parents stood on my deck that spring day and casually announced their takeover, it wasn't a surprise. It was just bold. And that boldness? It did something to me. It took all my old excuses. Asterisk, they mean well. They're stressed. They don't realize. Asterisk, and shredded them into something ugly and clear. They realized. They just didn't care. They had decided that my life was a shared family resource, like a Costco membership. And if I didn't fight back, they would take everything. Quietly.
So I smiled.
I nodded. And I said, "Sure." Then I went inside and started making a list. Not an emotional list. A practical one.
Locks. Codes.
Gate access. Garage keypad. Wi-Fi. Security cameras. Spare keys I'd hidden under a planter because I thought I lived in a normal world. I knew exactly what would happen if I confronted them up front. My mom would cry. My dad would get loud. Dana would start texting cousins, spinning the story into Simon hates kids. Simon thinks he's better than us. Simon won't share. They'd make it a moral issue.
So I didn't give them that.
I let them keep believing they'd won. And then I quietly removed their ability to take from me. That Monday, I made the calls like I was handling a business transaction. First, the locksmith. A full rekey for every exterior door. Front, back, garage, basement, even the shed. Then the security company reset every code, changed the admin login, removed any family member access that had been added during the initial setup because, oh yeah, my mom had insisted she needed it in case of emergencies. I remember the look on her face then. Not concern.
Control.
Next, I logged into the community portal. Changed the gate access list. They had a section for recurring guests. I deleted everyone except myself. Then, I created a new guest pass. Temporary, timed, and attached to my phone only. I turned off the old keypad code entirely. Finally, I drove up that weekend and did a physical sweep. I checked all the hiding spots. Under rocks, inside fake flower pots, behind the grill. And there it was. A spare key I didn't remember leaving, which meant someone else had. I held it in my palm for a long time, staring at it like it was proof of something I didn't want to admit. My family had been treating my house like theirs since the minute they knew it existed. I dropped the key into the lake. It sank without drama. That felt fitting. Then I walked inside, sat at the kitchen island, opened my laptop, and pulled up the camera feeds. I watched my own empty living room from 3 different angles. It felt strange to feel safer in my own house because I'd started guarding it like an asset under threat. But I did feel safer. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was making an adult decision that protected me. Then I went to the fridge and stuck a small printed sign on the inside of the cabinet door, where only I would see it. It said, "This is not a family resource." I didn't put it up for motivation. I put it up because I knew how easily I could be guilt-tripped back into old patterns. I needed a reminder. The family reunion was scheduled for the second weekend of May. I didn't remind them about it. I didn't mention it. I let them build their fantasy. My mom sent texts in the family group chat, the one I usually ignored because it mostly contained Dana's kids' soccer photos and passive-aggressive family values memes. Mom posted, "Can't wait for everyone to be together at the lake house." My dad replied with a thumbs up. Dana replied, "Kids are already packing." A cousin replied, "Wow, Simon, you're so generous." I stared at that line for a long time. Not because it hurt, because it proved my point. They weren't even pretending it was my choice. They'd turned it into a performance. Look what Simon is doing for us. Generosity was the costume they put on my boundaries. So I stayed silent. And I waited. They showed up on a Friday. I know because my cameras alerted me. I was in my city apartment, eating takeout, trying to pretend I didn't care when my phone buzzed. Motion detected. Driveway. I opened the feed, and there it was. A U-Haul. A full-size, orange and white U-Haul, parked in my driveway like a moving truck at an eviction. Behind it, my dad's truck, my mom's SUV, Dana's minivan. And people. So many people. Dana's kids hopped out first, already yelling, already running toward the lake like they were arriving at summer camp. My mom stepped out, holding a big tote bag labeled kitchen stuff, like she'd already decided my kitchen wasn't good enough. My dad came around the back of the U-Haul with a clipboard. A clipboard. Like he was managing a project. Then my dad walked up to my front door and punched in the old code with absolute confidence. He didn't hesitate because he wasn't guessing. He believed he owned the right to enter. The keypad flashed red. Denied. He tried again. Denied. Dana walked up, annoyed, and yanked the handle.
Locked.
She knocked hard. No answer, of course. She tried the side door.
Locked.
Then she did the thing that made my stomach twist. Even though I was miles away. She looked directly up at the camera above the porch. She smiled and waved. Like she was being cute. Like she hadn't just brought a U-Haul to my house. My dad stepped back and looked around, confused at first. Then the confusion shifted into irritation. I could see it in his posture. Chin lifting, shoulders squaring, like the world had made a mistake and he was about to correct it. My mom walked up and put her hand on the door, like she could soothe it open. Then she pulled out her phone. I knew what was coming before it happened. My phone started ringing. Dad. I let it ring. He called again. I let it ring. Then Mom. Then Dana. Then my cousin Brent, who I hadn't talked to in a year. The camera feed showed Dana stomping across the porch, phone pressed to her ear, talking fast. I couldn't hear her, but I could read her lips when she looked up at the camera again. What, Simon? My dad walked to the U-Haul and slapped the side of it, like he was trying to wake it up. Then he pointed at my front.
Truth.
My parents tried one last move a few weeks later. They didn't show up at the lake. They showed up at my apartment building. My doorman called me downstairs and said, "Your parents are here." I felt that old instinct, the one that always pushed me to smooth things over. I walked down anyway because part of me still wanted to believe they'd come to apologize. They hadn't. My dad stood with his hands in his pockets. My mom had that wounded expression she used like armor. My dad said, "You're really doing this?" I said, calm and even, "Yes." My mom said, "After everything we've done for you." I almost laughed again, but I didn't. I said, "You didn't do this for me. You did it for access." My dad's eyes narrowed. Then he tried the final angle. "You don't have a wife. You don't have kids. Who are you saving all this for?" There it was. The quiet contempt. The idea that my life didn't count unless it was structured the way they approved. I looked at him and said, "Me. Just that.
Me."
My mom opened her mouth to cry again, and I cut it off with the only sentence that mattered. "I won't fund a family I'm not respected in." My dad stepped forward like he might argue, but the doorman was standing there watching, polite and solid. And my dad hates being seen as the problem. So he did what he always did when he couldn't win. He turned it into a dramatic exit. My mom hissed, "You'll be sorry," like it was a curse. And they left. The consequences were exactly what you'd expect. Dana posted vague Facebook statuses about toxic people and selfishness. My mom stopped liking my photos, like that was punishment. My dad told extended family I was being controlled by money. But the bigger consequence was quieter. They actually had to pay their own bills. Dana actually had to plan her own summer. My parents had to accept that they couldn't just announce things and have me execute them. They didn't like it, but they adjusted. Because people always adjust when the free ride ends. And me? I started sleeping better. Not perfectly. There were nights I still felt guilty because guilt was the language my family used to keep me obedient. But the guilt got smaller every time I didn't feed it. A month later, I drove up to the lake house alone. I went on a Wednesday deliberately. No holidays, no special occasion.
Just a normal day.
The air was warm. The water had turned blue again. The trees were full and loud with birds. I parked in the driveway and walked to the front door. And for the first time, I didn't tense up. I typed in the new code and stepped inside. It smelled like clean wood and lemon cleaner. Quiet.
Mine.
I made coffee, carried it out to the deck, and sat in the same chair my mom had sat in when she announced my sister's kids were staying all summer. I looked at the lake and let myself feel something I wasn't used to feeling. Relief. Not triumph. Not revenge. Just relief. Later, I went into my office and opened the drawer where I kept boring documents, insurance papers, receipts, manuals. That little sign I taped inside the cabinet door was still there. "This is not a family resource." I peeled it off, folded it once, and put it in the drawer. Not because I didn't need the reminder anymore. Because I'd built the reminder into the structure of my life.
Locks. Codes.
Boundaries. And the simplest truth I'd ever said out loud. Me. That night, I grilled a steak, ate it on the deck, and watched the sun go down. No shouting. No guilt texts. No one unloading luggage like my life was their storage unit. Just the sound of water against the dock. And in that quiet, I understood something I should have learned years ago.
I didn't lose my family that day.
I stopped renting myself to people who never planned to treat me like one. So, tell me, have you ever had to draw a hard line with family, even when it felt like everything was on the line? What would you have done in my place? I'm genuinely curious to hear your thoughts.